What's going on, fellas? I got a plan. I'm gonna build some pumpkins. I just realized, looked outside today, it's summer. Summer! And I figure it's a good time to build something, have some nice summer food, some pumpkins, some watermelons, show you guys how to build a farm, and talk a little bit about staying online when you should go outside, playing some sun, you know? So truth be told, it's been a while since I built one of these things, so I had to go look back at my old single-player world, and I think I've got the dimensions right. It was 14 blocks wide, and it's a neat little thing. I wish I could remember who built this thing originally. The idea is you have a bunch of... God, these Endermen get in the way so much. Anyways, you have a bunch of watermelon and pumpkins facing a row in the ground, and you bring a bunch of mine carts that are caught on some pistons. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain, but it's easy to show you. I tell you what, we'll just set this thing up and you can see how it works. Not gonna lie, if you're doing this in the future, make sure you light it up first, because this is so annoying to work around these guys, and they keep picking up the blocks. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I got plenty of enough. It just slows the whole process down, and if you're one of those guys that likes making nice, seamless time lapses, or just, you know, having it flow right, it kind of messes with you. So, you know, live and learn. In the future, make sure it's lit up past level 7 in here so these guys don't come in and bug the ever-living heck out of you. There's something about my really horrible storage system here. I can't remember where anything is. I think my next big project I'm going to do is building a system. I don't know, almost kind of a storage system. Something that lets me know what's where, so I don't have to search every box every time I have to find something. Anyways, back to work. It is a good thing I kept this chummy going, because turns out it's kind of rather necessary. First off, what the heck is this? Get out of there. Building a bunch of water streams, because we need to get this entire thing hydrated. And it's not going to be enough to reach the entire thing, but it'll be enough to reach for most of the thing, which is fine, because there's going to be a couple spaces in the middle. We're going to need some lighting anyway, because these guys spawn in anything other than light level 7. Just means we're going to have to give up a tiny bit of efficiency to keep these guys out of the way, because they're going to interfere with the way the farm works. But hey, do what you do, right? We're getting there. We're getting there. Next thing, we're going to till all this up. Dude, this is going to be so annoying. If I didn't get all the dimensions right, I've got to rebuild this whole thing, and so I am not looking forward to it. In fact, I'll probably just leave it as it is in its broken state if that's the case. I figure it's a good time, though. I talk about this all the time. It's part of my other channel's thing about frame. And then I was thinking, what a great little allegory to talk about how I left the overworld to come to the end to build my thing, and being online or offline in general. I figure it's something we're all going to relate to, because nobody seems to know what frame is, but once you've got it, it's kind of intuitive. I mean, it's technically probably the most important thing when it comes to at least dealing with other people, but most importantly, dealing with yourself. Yeah, it's starting to become more and more important as I look in here, because somewhere in here is a pick or a hoe. I built a hoe. I have a hoe. Can I find a hoe? No hoe. It's amazing. You'd think online there's hoes everywhere, but for some reason there's none here. I'm sure it'll turn up eventually. So frame is how you deal with things. I'm sure you guys have heard that saying before. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it. Or you've heard some goofy new age stuff like The Secret, talking about how you think about the world shapes it. And they're wrong, but they're not wrong in the way you think. Frame is how you respond to things, how you frame the situation. So for example, you can have a friend who steals some money from you, or maybe he owes you some money, something like that, and he doesn't pay you back, and you get rather irritated about it. You can either look at that as in, this guy has taken my money, hurt my feelings, and it's horrible. It's horrible. How dare he? Or you can look at it like, well, I mean, he was going to be a good friend, but it's kind of good to know this now. It only cost me $50 that I lent him to find out that he truly doesn't care enough about me to pay money back like he's owed. As you can see, it's the exact same situation with two separate ways of dealing with the problem. One of them not only makes you happier, not only makes you better able to deal with it, but one way actually makes you healthier. And sometimes some people don't quite get it. They're like, yeah, but he did. And this is usually why you can tell when somebody doesn't have frame, because they will focus on the thing that they want to focus on. Honestly, you can use this for everything. You can use it for your job prospects. You can use it for your relationships. You know, did your girlfriend cheat on you? Is that a bad thing? Of course it's a bad thing. Nobody likes it. But at the same time, it's better to find out now than when you're married, you have 2 kids, and then you find out before that she decided to go and, love somebody else. And that would really suck, but it's glad you learned this stuff early. Or, here's an example from my own life. I decided one day I wanted to start my own business. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be pretty rewarding. Why wouldn't I want to? But the job I was in, I worked at a corporate setting, information security, not really important. It was my post-military job. It paid great, 6-figure salaries, the dream. I got to buy a lot of cool toys. We got to live in a nice place, in a nice part of the country, in a nice city, a nice townhouse. You guys get the deal. Anyway, at some point, a company decided to lay a bunch of people off. Stock prices went down, not that it matters. So I ended up having to look for a new job. Now, a lot of people would have been really mad. It was so weird, too, because as they did the interview to let everybody know, there was a lot of people crying. There was a lot of people angry. They thought, this was a great job. How dare you take it away from me? But again, frame. I looked at it as in, well, I've always wanted to start my own company, do the things that I love, write a book, make some videos, do the YouTube thing. I thought, what better time than today? So I made the plunge. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And here I am today. Ended up being happier. Now, the framing isn't the only part of it, because you can be somewhat delusional, but still have good frame, right? So yeah, how you frame it was everything. Now, at the same time, I had always assumed that nothing is going to last forever. Good times are good times, bad times are bad times, but they all come, they all go, and eventually you're going to be back to where you started. So I built myself a next egg, and this is kind of one of those reasons that frame comes at the end of hard work. You realize that all of the positive thinking in the world doesn't matter if you're not prepared. So that 2-year nest egg was great. It allowed me the framing of it. For other people, they were living paycheck to paycheck, so for them it was like terrifying. Oh my god, this thing is done. We're never gonna be able to make this money back. We're never gonna get another job be this good. For me, it was, I have 2 years of savings, so I could literally go and do nothing for 2 years and be happy. So that was the perfect time to try it, and then here we are today. Glad I did it too. Everything seems to have worked out well. And that's the thing about frame, you can't fake it. A lot of guys think they can fake it, act like a millionaire, act like you're God's gift to women, act like this man is the greatest thing on earth. But if you don't have the work to back it up, it's just delusion. It's just delusion. And the thing about delusion is you're really only deluding yourself, because for other people, it's super obvious. You can always tell, like a guy calls himself an alpha male, and you look at him, you're like, you're not very, fit, not very attractive. You speak kind of a lot of bravado. You're not very charming. Like, I wouldn't invite you to my house to meet my parents. I wouldn't have you hang out with me. You're just not very fun. And as much as guys thinking that, conquering the world is what makes you a really cool man that everybody would want to hang out with, in reality, we're a social species, man. The whole point is the most charming guys, the ones who are able to convince other people to do good things and be good people. Or, bad people, I guess, if you want to be into that thing. But whoever can influence the most people tends to be the most valuable person. Like I said, no man is an island. We're a social species. That's just how it works. And so frame is the culmination of whatever journey you've had to take. Now, I've talked about mine on my main channel often. I'm not going to waste time here talking about it. But there was a lot of work that came into me sitting here being able to write a book, me sitting here being able to make goofy videos, playing with electronic Legos. But nobody sees that work. All they see is a guy here goofing around, and they think, oh, this is kind of lame. Why can't he be something bigger? But again, the difference is frame. You work hard, you get to where you want to be, and then you enjoy what you have at the end. I mean, what else do you want out of life? What more is there? Just that and your relationship with other people. But again, frame helps. The relationships with other people, they get better too. The important thing when you're making this farm is you have to stagger your pumpkins from your watermelons. And the reason is simple. It's because these stems will always connect to any pumpkin nearby. So what you have to do is, if you have 2 pumpkins here, let's say this one finally sprouts a pumpkin over here, this one refuses to grow. But if you make this one a watermelon and this one a pumpkin, let's say this one grows a pumpkin, but this one's a watermelon, it can still grow into this one here. So it just speeds up the rate that you're able to use your farm. It's one of those little things it's good to know in the future. Now, to put some of the finishing touches on this place. So far, so good. Normally, I like putting some kind of depth to these things, have a little bit of slabs, fences, whatever. On this farm, you kind of need the walls to be smooth because otherwise, when the stuff comes in and runs around, it can shoot items out everywhere. It just makes it less efficient. So you got to take the hit when it comes to your aesthetics on this one. Also, if you can see, the top block has the villager area up above, and it looks kind of ugly. Luckily, the other block that isn't affected by slime blocks is right there, glazed terracotta. So I'm going to build a nice mosaic with the top with these, what are they, light gray? Yeah, light gray glazed terracotta. And plus, I've got to learn how they set up their, oh, okay, I see. So the center of the circle is to the bottom left of whichever direction you're facing. It'll be a nice little aesthetic thing. So like I said, the slime machine will be sitting up on this level. The minecarts will be sitting on this level. Every time I start the machine, it races down that way, knocking over all the pumpkins and watermelons in the way, picking them up, and on their way back, we'll drop them off into a hopper setup. So, next part of the plan here is I gotta set up the minecarts. And there's a bit of a trick to it. So as you can see, you put a single rail down, you set up the minecart like so. You want them in all the areas where pumpkins and that are gonna grow. The next part is you want fences on top of the whole thing because you are going to push these into the minecart, but there's a trick to it. You don't want to move them because they have to align pretty much evenly with the block. If they don't, what ends up happening is you end up pushing some of the stems and then you ruin the whole farm. You have to come in and fix it. And the next part is you want to set up something to push it down. And I always suck at this. Now you can't just push them. There's two things in the way. One, they have a... Oops. Oh, that's why. There we go. Two things are in the way. One, you have a rail underneath, which prevents it from pushing, because if you know, you can't push minecarts, or you can't push anything if there's more than 12 blocks underneath it. And obviously with the ground, there's going to be 12. And if there wasn't, you would just push them down below. It doesn't work. So now you have to carefully take out each of the rails, being careful not to push the minecarts because they are aligned just perfectly the way they are. Then have some kind of button or lever, which do I not have? I don't have, but I can build something. Yeah, we'll just make a button. Buttons work. There. Now you see how that piece of fence ends up going inside of the minecart? This is important because A, it's aligned perfectly in the middle of the button, so if anything were to push the fence around, it'll also push around the cart. And this is where you build the slime blocks. As you can see, it only takes about 7 of them altogether. You don't need these anymore. Again, being very careful not to push this thing around. What you do now is you build your flying machine, and every time you run this thing, these pieces will come all the way up and all the way down. To build a flying machine is pretty straightforward. First off, we'll take out these two. We'll put the main contraption here. You want to have it set up so like so. So as you can see, every time this thing goes forward, it will push anything above it. So it's going to push this block, which these ones should technically be attached to it. We'll get to that in a second here. We're just lining everything up right now. And then the same thing reciprocated on the other side. And there. May not make sense now, but trust me, it makes sense. So the idea is once this thing initiated, it powers this block. This block will push this piston. That piston pushes all the slime blocks that are here, which will include... Oh. Now the next part of this thing is to get this thing running, and once it runs, everything will line up so it looks a bit better. Actually, you know what we can do here? there's something you can do to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Just get rid of the mine blocks. As soon as the slimes touch these, it'll work just fine. So if we set it up the way it's supposed to look, it makes life a lot easier. There she goes. So as you can see, it's going to eventually come back and pick up the last of these ones. That part doesn't matter. But as it goes down, it knocks down all of the pumpkins and watermelons that are already grabbed, puts them automatically into the minecarts so you can pick them up later. Now, there's very little loss. You might lose 1 or 2. Thing is here too, I'm not too great with planning it perfectly, so what I like to do is let the thing run, see where it stops, and think, where do I need to set this up so it runs properly? So in this case, it only needs to come to this wall and then come back. So I'm going to have it go in 1 more block and then come back out. The trick here is how to stop it. So this is the last step on the thing. This is going to push these guys 1 more block back. So this will be right here. And I want it to not be able to pull this thing any further. So we're going to set up an obsidian block. Actually, you know what? We'll set it right here, move it all 1 square back. That shouldn't hurt anything. Then once it's all set back, everything should line up rather nicely and be off the grid. Now I got to make sure, and we need another row here because we want everything to line up properly. As you can see, they're a little bit off center. So if you put blocks right there, it should push the minecarts into position. Let's give it a test. Excellent. So it stops 1 short. All the minecarts line up against this wall. And then on this side, they aren't able to move because of that obsidian block in the way. And hey, there she goes. All right, I'm going to work on the roof on this thing. To pick up all the stuff afterwards, you just put some mine carts on the bottom, and as it goes over the mine, or as it goes over the hoppers, it picks everything up, drops into the chest. Bob's your uncle, you're good to go. So the thing about frame is it's very difficult to articulate, but it's very easy to understand. Again, it's part of having a strong set of ethics, what you will and will not put up with. It understands that you can't change the world. People around you are people, and they're going to decide their own things. So all you can really control is yourself and how you react to things. And then it's not becoming non-reactive. It's becoming adequately reactive. Not everything requires a response from you, but if something is going to affect you in a negative way, you're going to take actions. Now, sometimes that can be as easy as just distancing yourself from the person who gives you that negative feedback. Sometimes it can be as easy as communicating with them. Hey, not a big fan of that. And if the person likes you, they tend to not want to hurt you that way. But most people are just they're kind of dicks. So for the most part, you're going to realize that you can't change them. They're going to do what they're going to do. It's going to affect you. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it but suck it up and prepare for the worst case scenario. And you take all these things together, you end up with a cool confidence that changes how you react to things, how you perceive things, how everything in your life can be framed in a way that's beneficial to you. And if it can't be, then you make some effort into making it so. And there's your work. When everybody says do the work, it's right there. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Built a pumpkin farm, talked a little bit about frame, and it's that one lesson you kind of wish you had learned earlier, but you have to you need age and experience for it. But that's fine. You guys will get there. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.